Kate Canetta,
Here.
Gladys Cooper,
Here.
Lauren Daly. I think she told me she could not be here. Bridget Girton is here. Julie,
Here.
Ralph, not here. Albert is here. And Louisa?
Here.
Okay, great. I did not see an updated agenda item. An updated agenda. Can someone confirm there was
just a change in the
posted?
order of items. There's no
Okay.
change to the agenda itself. It's just
Okay,
a suggestion to take the executive session discussion of the contract you're going to ratify and putting it at the end of the meeting along with the vote, so that your
alrighty.
public won't have to wait while you do that.
Okay, sounds good. So with that, I will give the floor to Mr. Walston.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. And thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I know, number one, we just had a subcommittee meeting, finance committee meeting, Mr. Russo, thank you. But I also understand we had board members working in a different capacity with Ms. Chusha. So I just want to thank everyone for their work this evening. So we are, when I say we, I'm talking about the cabinet. I think you're going to learn quickly. There was significant community feedback and involvement in our survey that we pushed out to the community. So I'm excited to kind of share those results as well. For the board members who have been on serving for a couple of years now, they will tell you that we started this work, these discussions prior to the pandemic. And with the pandemic approaching, this certainly was no longer a priority. Certainly the action steps and the priorities are still important to us. But the activity of walking you through the plan was not as important given the realities of the pandemic. With all of that said, we have our strategic plan, our roadmap to achievement that we want to review with you this evening. As part of the presentation, I'm asking, I think it will be most efficient if we save the questions for the end. I believe Mike has set up a Google Doc. And Mike, if you can also take that document and put it in the chat for the board members so they don't have to go fishing for it. And then the team and I, we're all represented on this call, can circle back at the end and answer any questions that you might have. Previously, I also want to state that the plan that we will be sharing with you this evening are the same goals that was shared previously. It's just in a different format this evening, different colors, and you'll see that momentarily. Just wanted to make it consistent with some of the recruitment materials and some of the colors that you may have seen displayed at our kickoff to begin the year this year. So it's just kind of more colorful, more engaging, and frankly, just kind of more consistent what we're trying to do. So what I would like to do is revisit the vision and mission with the board, with the community, an excerpt from the equity and diversity policy, and reminder of our portrait of the graduate, just in terms of our focus as a district, and then take an opportunity to kind of walk you through the survey results, feedback, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised the feedback from our community in terms of engagement that we got from them. I've endeavored to make sure that we've had a community plan, and so regardless of how the seats change, how the faces change in the cabinet or the board, it was important to me that we have a plan that the community is going to embrace. And I think we have some evidence between the last number of processes now, given the feedback for our vision and mission, given the feedback and work from the board on the equity statement, and the community engagement on the portrait of the graduate. I think you're going to find in many ways that this plan is consistent with all of that work to help realize the vision and mission of the school district. So without any further delay, Mike, I'm going to ask if you can share your screen.
Yep. 1 second. Show. Nope, not that one. There we go.
Oh, great. Thank you. And I'll just give everyone a minute to adjust their screens. But again, our strategic plan, 5-year plan with the way the plan will be laid out, you will see our 6 goals as a district with strategies to help realize those goals and then action steps to help realize those strategies as a process throughout the plan. Mike, we're ready for the next page. And so the vision and mission, through our work, we're getting feedback from community, parents, students, staff during the 1920 school year. We revised our vision statement to read, Danbury Public Schools aspires to advance all learners to their highest potential. And we do that in partnership with families in the community and while providing transformational learning experiences designed to nurture thoughtful and prepared graduates. Mike? At the end of 2019, we approved a policy. This board also revisited this policy. I believe at the beginning of this year or sometime before the end of last year, reviewed the policy. And this board also felt comfortable with the language in the policy. This is simply an excerpt from that policy, but we feel strongly this helps us realize our vision and mission as well. Mike? And then here are the 6 priorities of our district vision: teaching and learning, staff development, talent acquisition, school climate, meaningful collaboration, and resource allocation. And I think teaching and learning is obvious just in terms of what that means. Staff development is about our investing in trying to support the growth and development of our teachers, administrators, and staff. Talent acquisition is another title for human resources and recruitment of staff. School climate is about a number of things, but it's about making sure kids feel good about coming to school, families feel welcome when they come to school, and students also feel that they're safe in our buildings. Meaningful collaboration for us, and again, I just want to do a quick definition of these terms. It's important that you know these things as we move forward. Is really about family community engagement for us. That those are the big areas that we'll be covering, but it's also about making sure that we engage our staff in meaningful ways to make sure they're continue to be connected to the district, while we also look to do that with students and families as well. But our big investment certainly has been families and staff. Last but not least, resource allocation. Critical for us, not only resource allocation about how we support schools and differentiate resources to schools that need the most, but with that, also there are strategies in there around working with our city to try to leverage resources for the school district, while also trying to seek additional funds, whether that's through federal funding, state funding, or local funding. Mike? And so community survey, and I believe we had this survey available for 2 weeks. We asked for feedback on every individual strategy that I had just reviewed with you. And so you will see feedback from every area as we go through the next couple of slides. I'm ready, Mike. Okay, so in total, we had 683 respondents. This is pretty typical of the type of respondents we received previously when we had our initial kind of approval of the direction of the strategic plan a couple of years ago. So 3% of the responders identified as community members, over 83% identified as parents of family members, close to 7% for students, and close to 7% for DPS staff. Mike? So teaching and learning. And so the way the scale was broken down, it was strongly agree or agree, neither agree or disagree, disagree or strongly disagree. And the blue represents agree, The kind of yellow, light yellow represents agree or disagree, neither agree or disagree. The lighter yellow, I guess we call that beige almost, is disagree, and strongly disagree is the kind of, can you point to the strongly disagree, Mike, the color? Thank you. And so in the blue, you'll see of our three strategies to help us implement our goals. It's implement and sustain pre-K through 12 instructional programs that realize the characteristics of the POG, strengthen and make curriculum accessible for all students, and include enrichment and interventions, increase opportunities, improve the quality of service for all students. And overwhelmingly, we have families, our staff, and students approving in the affirmative. Mike? And then you'll see similar numbers, although a little less so for staff development. But across the board, we are getting feedback in the 70%. And I think you're going to see something consistent throughout when looking at the responders. Mike? Similarly with talent acquisition, and this one is a little lower, so I'll make sure I take an opportunity to read this one. Enhance teacher and administrative recruitment to promote a broader pool of culturally responsive and diverse applicants. And so you'll see we had close to 70% of our responders there agree. Deepen the sense of community in which staff feel valued and respected, a little over 80%. And then enhance structures that celebrate widely the deep and diverse contributions of our staff and inspire a rich school climate. And this is a little over 75% at 76.7. Mike? And then school climate. And this is, again, just going back to addressing those social emotional goals that you hear us talk about often. Promote social emotional learning opportunities for all students throughout the day. 80% agreed. Promote and enhance programs that create safe schools, over 80%. And further develop our infrastructure to support resources and promote positive school culture and restorative practices throughout all schools. And again, we are close to 80%. Meaningful collaboration, again, one of those investments that we have made in these last couple of years. I work collaboratively with schools, businesses, and community to strengthen meaningful engagement through joint decision-making. This is very important work, certainly for Danbury Career Academy work, a little over 70%. Build and enhance the capacity of families and educators to support student learning. A lot of these things have started through our Parent Academy, Parent University programming at 82%, and develop effective methods of communication with parents, staff, and students. And certainly, I think the board probably recalls some of the strategies we have taken, and you're going to see some of those things reflected in our plan with Parent Square and our website. Last but not least, resource allocation, continue needs analysis with the purpose of finding efficiencies that will improve the quality of services, and develop advocacy and partnership to leverage the voice of school leadership, elected officials, and community stakeholders. And this begins to specifically talk about some of those strategies that we're hoping will yield some positive results for us. And then last but not least, deepen partnerships with city officials to plan for program and facility expansion in the face of expiring relief funding. And of course, we are finding ourselves right there right now with the financial cliff right ahead of us. And so getting back to the PowerPoint itself, just kind of want to walk you through some of the folks who will be speaking this evening. And then again, all of us will be available at the end of the presentation. I might also encourage you, if you have any questions, please feel free to go to the link, maybe add your questions in there. It'd be a nice way for us to capture all of the questions at the end and make sure we answer everyone fully. And so Dr. I'm sorry, go back, Mike. And so Dr. Casimiro is going to take us to the first two slides, teaching and learning and staff development. Kim Thompson is going to take us through talent acquisition, given her portfolio in human resources. Kelly Trucius also, she has a major responsibility in teaching and learning and staff development. But for this evening, she's going to cover school climate for us. Meaningful collaboration will be handled by Dr. Seelig, and resource allocation will be handled by John Spang. So Mike, we're ready for the next one. Dr. Casimiro, take it away.
Great.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'll apologize in advance if I have a little bit of a coughing fit.
You sound
Comes and
great,
go-
Dr. Castanero.
It comes and goes. So I'm going to do my best. I have my cup of hot tea ready here and waiting. Most of you have already seen the slides and the strategic plan in the form of the broader goals. And so really some of the things I'll outline tonight is what's kind of happening in the action steps. So how do you take a strategic plan and break it down into chunks in order to achieve its intended outcomes? And so, as you know, the teaching and learning slide is a pretty weighty one. How do we provide equitable learning environments and experiences that are rigorous, inclusive, and culturally responsive that prepare learners for post-secondary success? Maybe a little bit later on, we'll go through and talk a little bit about what that inclusive and culturally responsive actually means in the context of academic settings and in the context of learning, because I think that maybe identifying some definitions and clearing some misconceptions about that will be helpful for appreciating how those terms are used throughout the entire presentation, as well as in our own equity policy that we've already adopted. So we can certainly circle back to that and answer some questions, but hopefully through the course of the presentation, we'll be able to address some of that. So one of the biggest responsibilities in the school district is to make sure that we have a robust teaching and learning program, and that our teachers are ready to teach that program. So obviously our main goals, and these are pretty common goals, that we will implement and sustain a rigorous program that realizes the portrait of the graduate. Obviously the portrait of the graduate is something that we've incorporated that has been new. Teachers and our administrators are working diligently to understand our rubrics and to make sure that we're learning how to effectively weave in our portrait of the graduate practices into our curriculum and into our lessons, so that we're giving students practice and access with the things that we expect of them upon graduation. Strengthening and make our curriculum accessible for all. And basically that means making sure that all of our students have the same level of access. And we do that in the form of creating supports in the universal design of what we do. And increasing interventions and improving academic outcomes. There's no secret that we have a long way to go. Some of the setbacks with academically as a result of the pandemic, something we'll be focusing on with this group in particular right now, but for probably the next 10 years as we support our students as they move through our school system. So working on building up our resources for that, which in years past we haven't had many. The silver lining of the pandemic is that we were able to utilize a lot of the funding to purchase resources that we've never had before in the district. So we're spending a lot of time rolling that out and teaching our teachers how to use those. And then the last one is increasing opportunities to improve the quality of services for all students to be college and career ready. I think the Academy is a testament, and the development and action plan behind that work is a testament to the commitment that we're making in the college and career area. And so the action steps around these areas are how to execute on these. And so, as you know, this is a multi-year plan. So this is not a one and done. There's a lot of work involved, and some of that work may shift over time and will adjust over time. But generally, in terms of the action steps and accessing the curriculum, we are redesigning services to support our English language learners. So our second language learners, their instruction, their tier 1 instruction, their core instruction is really about building language acquisition skills. And so we've implemented some programs there. We're going to continue to roll that out and report out on that over the course of the next couple of years. Implement a comprehensive assessment system. This is extremely important for us in order to pinpoint where our students' needs are. It was important for us to build and invest in a robust assessment system. So we're learning about that new assessment system, and we're working with our teachers and administrators to get them to understand how to utilize that. And we'll be reporting out on that. And the same is true. The pattern will fall through with all of these. We'll be reporting out on the various stages of implementation and rollout over time. We'll be working on our curriculum and resources to support implementation that are both inclusive and culturally relevant. Danbury is one of the most diverse cities in the state, both socioeconomically and linguistically. and we have an obligation to support all of our learners. Not always does that include it's not just about language per se, but it's really about understanding our students as students, who they are, where they come from, and understanding how to leverage those experiences to increase engagement. One of the hallmarks of culturally relevant teaching is really about going beyond teachers just knowing their content, but they know their content, they know their learner, and they know how to teach that content to the learner. It's good teaching practice to understand your students' experiences and to make connections with them to build relationships. There's a tremendous amount of research and neuroscience research on the brain that when you build trusting relationships with your students and they feel that they are understood and they're making connections based on their life experiences, that achievement increases and their engagement also increases as well. So that's something that's time tested, research based, and is in vast amounts of literature, which is why you'll see those terms throughout our presentation here, not just in our school district, but just about every school district in the state. So very important for us to be working on our craft in those areas. Okay. Monitor and provide feedback for teacher and admin training. We're continually working with our teachers as we've been rolling out our phonics program at the elementary level. So we'll be working on that. We'll be creating more district and school-based teaming to engage instruction around and feedback cycles. So how are we doing with the work that we're rolling out? What does it look like in a classroom, and how can we improve our craft? So we partner together to do that work. Identify, coordinate, and implement research-based interventions. As you know, just in the last couple of years, we were able to add student support specialists to our budget, which was very important. That helps with our tiered intervention. And they are a critical staff member in our buildings to help students who are falling behind and are more than a few grade levels below their academic peers. So we'll be looking to continue to support that. Create systems to evaluate current before and after school systems and making sure that we incorporate the feedback from our stakeholders. And we'll be partnering with Ann Mead and her center to make sure that what we're offering after school is relevant and supportive of our students and our families. And let's see here, make sure I didn't skip one. Evaluating outcomes. So one of the things that is going to be really important for us to do is as we shift into shifting literacy programs, and we could speak a little bit more about that in the curriculum committee, is that it'll be important for us to assess how is this going? Is this working, and what adjustments do we need to make? So establishing a system to evaluate our own work and to push ourselves for continual improvement. And then the last one is to develop support systems to ensure students graduate college and career ready with either a 4- or 6-year high school cohort. And so lots of things go into improving a graduation rate, attacking things on the side of absenteeism, making sure that our students know that we want them in school and that it's important, that we're communicating that with our parents and the students themselves, making sure that students are on track for graduation and that we're able to provide the courses that they need and the time that they need them in order to do that. And to make sure that if a student is a second language learner or a student who's coming in who's perhaps maybe overaged and a bit undercredited, that we find a way to help accelerate their learning so that we can get them in our 6-year cohort to make sure that all of our learners are graduating and are successful for post-secondary opportunities. And I'm not sure, do you want to do questions on a slide, or do you want to come back at the end, Mike? Do you want to go through the whole presentation?
The whole presentation, Kara.
Okay, I will do that. Okay, next slide.
I'm finding it very difficult to go through this. It's like on speed. The information being provided is at such a fast rate that it's I'm not finding it productive. I just thought I would make that comment.
Okay, would you like me to slow down on the action steps or?
Honestly, the second slide that Kevin presented with the mission statement that was not read out loud and was approved, I guess that's the first place. That was some time ago. And the information being provided now is like so fast that it's a problem for me. I don't know if anybody else is having the same issue, but I did want to make that comment.
Right. Michelle, I don't know what you mean about the vision and mission statement. You didn't hear the vision and mission statement that I read?
I didn't hear you read the second slide, I believe it was. I think you ran right past it and then went right to the breakout of the different, action steps or whatever it was, the graph. It's just very fast. There's no time to absorb the information. It's almost at the speed that I'm speaking right now.
Okay.
I would like it if y'all slowed down a little bit
We-
and to wait till the end, which is what we've been doing all this time for many sessions. And then waiting after an hour of a presentation does not allow the individual to actually literally dig in and ask questions or remember what the content was. I just
Mhm.
needed to make that comment.
Okay, so Rachel, I don't know if you had something to say, but I can
Yeah,
just,
sorry, I think that, I'm pretty sure you read the vision and mission statement. Did I miss?
I definitely read it.
Okay,
Well,
And-
maybe later at the end, we could go back and read it because I'm trying to listen
Maybe-
and, I'm not feeling the best, but right now, the speed in which we are going, it's a
Sure.
lot of information.
sure,
And, I need to make that comment.
sure. Thanks, Michelle. If we could just, I know Kara, you're very passionate and you know this inside and out. But if you could just slow it down just a hair.
Not a
But
problem.
as, we're having the presentation, the document, is my internet okay? Do you hear me okay? Okay. The document, you can type in questions as the presentation is going on. It's in the chat.
Yeah, I get that.
You
but
don't- okay, you got it?
presentation-
All right.
The presentation is so fast that by the time I'm finishing writing the question, we're on to a different section. So if we could
Okay.
just slow everything down, then I might be able to, maybe it's just me, do both and absorb the information. Thank
Sure,
you.
I could definitely do that. And, the trick with these is always being respectful to not read at folks, something that's already written, and to find ways to, help make the connections between those two things, and spend more times in areas where folks had questions, which is why I think Dr. Seelig sent the questions out in advance. So I'm happy to slow down. I definitely talk a little bit fast when I get going with these things. So I appreciate the feedback and I will slow down for the next slide. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we'll go to the next slide, Mike. Thank you. So this one centers on staff development. As you know, it's extremely important in order for our students to be learning. Our teachers need to be at the top of their game, and that requires a tremendous amount of attention to how our teachers are developing as professionals and how we're supporting them as people in many cases. And so the overarching statement and goal is that we're going to develop and enhance the skills of our educators and the competencies of all district staff. So it's really not just teaching staff, but how are our paraprofessionals supporting the teachers in the classroom? Are their skills up to date? How our secretary staff greets the families when you walk in the door and makes them feel welcome. So part of that are all part of what makes school culture and climate, and are very important, that we're constantly paying attention to those and we're making sure that our skills are up to speed in those areas. Again, the idea of cultural responsiveness and reaching all learners, you'll see that that's a common theme throughout. And again, all that means is that we get to know our families really, really well, and we leverage what we know about them to help them grow, and to help their children grow. And that means that we're very thoughtful in our approach and that we're constantly working on building those relationships to understand the diverse nature of the needs of our families and our students. So the three bulleted areas to the left, there's a tremendous amount of research on the role of the principal in a school. And so when we talk about some high leverage strategies and efficacy of how things play out in a school, we know that the role of the principal has one of the highest rates of supporting student achievement in school. And so in turn, we are focusing our energy on our principals this year in ways that maybe we haven't been able to do that before. Part of the commitment with that is to be able to have our two new chief of schools to be working directly with principals to provide ongoing job and vetted support. And to work on data cycles with principals to help them dig into their data, help them understand the learners in their building, and help them work together, both one-on-one, but also as peers, to develop strategies to move their schools to the next level. And we've had some great successes in this area. We've had some blue ribbon schools. And I can tell you, some of our PLC work that had begun over the last couple of years has been instrumental in principals having light bulb moments that led to strategies and methodologies to implement action plans to take their buildings to the next level. So improving the skill sets of our principals is extremely important. We strive to provide very robust professional learning. So we don't have a ton of days. That's always seems to be an issue, that there's never enough time to implement all the things that we want to implement here in Danbury, in terms of being able to support with additional professional development where we want to do that. But we do our best to balance out the needs of the system with the time that we have in the form of professional development time and also after school meeting time. So that's very important. So we're constantly looking to provide that learning so we could build the capacity of our staff members for continual improvement. And then the last one is about increasing collaboration with teachers and administrators through practice through the lens of equity and high expectations. And so that goes again, centering on who are our learners in the classrooms in front of us and what are their needs, and what we are teaching, are they ready for that? How do we raise expectations around our academics, and how do we drive improvement through really deliberate practices? So this is a really important one. And so making sure that there's an open relationship between the teacher and the administrator, and that they have time through data teams, after school time, and through PLC work